Hey everyone, Andrew back again and welcome to another video, and today I am back with another top 20 for 2020 list, and this list is my top 20 killer animal movies. This was a fun list to compile, and I actually discovered that I had a lot more killer animal themed movies than I first originally thought. So yeah, there's not really a lot more to say, but before we get into my list though, I'm wanting to give a shout out to the creators of this series, Joe and Jason, so The Horror Man and Horrific Nightmares JM. I'm sure you already are subscribed to them already, you probably already know who they are, but if not, I'll leave links in the description box for both of their channels, so definitely head on over and check them out. They are both really good friends of mine and they're both awesome YouTubers. So anyway, with that being said, let's get on with my top 20 killer animal list. Like all my lists, I'm going to start at number 20 and work my way down to number 1 being my all-time favourite. So let's get started. Coming in at number 20 we have Squirm, and I think this is a really well made killer worm movie from the 70s, and it still holds up really well to this day, especially from an effects standpoint. The practical effects within this film look fantastic and all the worms look really good too. I like the characters, there's a good storyline within this film as well, so that is Squirm at number 20. Number 19 goes to the Alfred Hitchcock classic, The Birds. And what can I say about this film? It is a classic film about killer birds, and I really enjoy this one a lot. So that is The Birds at number 19. Coming in at number 18 we have Bait, and this is a really fun, kind of a unique take on a killer shark movie. Basically a tsunami hits the residents of a coastal town and a group of people get trapped in a supermarket. I really like it. Bring on sharks into the mix, and yeah, you have sharks stalking people in a flooded supermarket. Pretty unique, but it works really well. And fun little fact, this was actually filmed an hour away from where I live, so that's pretty cool too. But yeah, Bait, really fun Aussie killer shark movie, and that one sits at number 18. Number 17 goes to Arachnophobia, and I feel a lot of people kind of overlook this movie to a degree. I've always really enjoyed it, and I can remember watching it at a pretty young age, and I've always enjoyed this one over the years. What can I say about this one? It is a killer spider movie. I don't actually own too many killer spider films, and I haven't actually seen too many either. But Arachnophobia is a classic to me, so that one sits at number 17. Coming in at number 16, in my opinion, is one of the most classic killer snake movies that there is, and that is the original Anaconda. I've always enjoyed this one, and it's just a lot of fun about a giant anaconda. I love the setting within this movie too. It's got a good cast of characters, and yeah, the snake looks really awesome in this one, so that is Anaconda. Coming in at number 15 we have Grizzly, and this is another really awesome 70s killer animal movie, obviously featuring a killer bear. Now there's a quote on the cover, "the most dangerous jaws on land," and that is essentially what you get with this movie. It is basically a killer bear version of Jaws essentially. Really awesome setting in this one, and it's surprisingly pretty gory and pretty brutal for a 70s film, honestly. There's some pretty gory deaths within this film. But yeah, classic movie, really enjoy this one a lot, so that is Grizzly. Coming in at number 14 we have Snakes on a Plane, and I know this movie is a little bit cheesy, but I really like this one. There's just something very frightening about being trapped on a plane. You're up in the air, way above land, there's really no escape, and there's killer snakes on board. Very, very frightening premise. I used to be absolutely terrified of snakes, not so much anymore, but I definitely would be in this scenario. If I was trapped on a plane with a bunch of killer snakes, I would be freaking the fuck out. So yeah, this one definitely had to make the list. That is Snakes on a Plane. Coming in at number 13, we have Lake Placid, and apologies for just showing an image of the Lake Placid poster. For the life of me, I cannot find my DVD copy. I know I own a copy of the film, but I just cannot find it. I've had a good look, and yeah, it's nowhere to be found, so I have no idea where that's gone. But Lake Placid to me is one of the most classic crocodile films. And yeah, it's one that I used to rent out quite a lot. Always loved this movie. I think in terms of a killer croc movie, it is a bit of a classic for me. So this one definitely had to make the list. I'm sure most of you have seen it. And that is Lake Placid. Coming in at number 12, we have Boar. And this is a fairly recent Australian killer pig or killer boar movie. And this one stars some pretty well-known Aussie actors. This one has Nathan Jones, and it also stars John Jarratt, which is pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see him in another role other than Mick Taylor from the Wolf Creek series. But yeah, this one is a lot of fun. The boar effects look really, really awesome for the most part. The boar is huge. It has a lot of really good Aussie humour. And yeah, it's just a really, really good killer pig or giant boar movie. So that is Boar. Coming in at number 11, we have Dark Age. And this is definitely an Aussie classic, especially when it comes to the crocodile genre. There's been a few Australian killer croc movies. And yeah, this is definitely a classic. It's not quite my favourite in terms of an Aussie croc film. We will get to that later in the list, but I had to include this in the list. Yeah, definitely deserves a spot in any top 20 killer animal movie in my opinion. Again, John Jarratt also stars in this. He's a lot younger in this movie, obviously, because this one came out in the late 80s. But this one is really, really good, and I love the storyline to this one. It's got a really, really good sort of Aboriginal storyline to it. And yeah, there's a lot more to it than just your classic evil killer crocodiles. Really, really good storylines. So yeah, that is Dark Age. Coming in at number 10, we have Long Weekend. And a few of you may not consider this to be a killer animal film, but I certainly do. It's kind of different, but to me it's a very subtle killer animal film. So this is an absolute Aussie classic. It's known as an Ozploitation movie. It is from the late 70s. And yeah, this one is really, really good. It follows a arguing couple. They've basically gone away to an isolated beach for the weekend to try and sort out their marital problems. And things don't really work out for them too well because they basically have a total disregard to the environment and the wildlife and nature. And that is when this movie really kicks in, because the wildlife decide to take a stand and they get a little bit of revenge. Not your traditional killer animal film. It's very, very subtle in that regard, as I said, but I definitely consider it to fit well within this theme. And yeah, it's an absolute Aussie classic. So that is Long Weekend. Coming in at number 9, we have Wilderness. And again, you could possibly say that this wasn't 100% a killer animal film, but I'm definitely going to include this one. Essentially, it is a slasher, but there are killer animals involved, and you can even see that by the cover art on this particular release. This one is a slasher, and it's centered on an island, and basically it involves a killer with a pack of killer dogs. So it's not solely a killer animal film, but there's definitely scenes, and quite a lot of scenes, featuring the killer dogs. including one very, very nasty kill scene. So I think this one counts for the list, at least it's going to be in mine. So that is Wilderness. Number 8 is an absolute classic, and that is Cujo. I love this movie, I always have, and this one definitely had to be on the list. It was one of those killer animal movies that was a no-brainer for me. So don't really need to talk too much about it. I'm sure everyone has seen this movie. It is a classic killer dog film, and that is Cujo. Coming in at number 7 is another absolute classic, and that is Piranha. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this one also. Always been a big fan of this one. I like most of the Piranha films actually. I really like Piranha 2, and I also really like the remake, but we can only include one from the franchise, and of course I had to go with the original. Such a classic movie. There's some really, really awesome kills within this film. Some good blood and gore effects too for the time. But yeah, this is an absolute classic. That is Piranha. Coming in at number 6, we have Rogue. And here it is, guys. This is my favourite Aussie croc film. It's not quite my all-time favourite croc film. Another film pretty recently actually beat it out, but we'll get to that in a few minutes here. But Rogue is really, really awesome. I've always been a big fan of this one, especially for the size of the crocodile. The crocodile within this film is absolutely huge, and he looks really, really good too. The croc effects within this film are really, really well done. I love the setting within this film. Yeah, this is phenomenal. If you have not seen this one, I definitely highly, highly recommend checking Rogue out. It is awesome. Coming in at number 5, we have The Pack. And I'm not going to lie, this was a pretty recent watch for me, and it has already made its way well into my all-time favourite killer animal movies. And I want to give a thank you to Sal, Phantom Banshee. He recommended this to me a couple of times. And yeah, this was one that has been a fairly recent watch for me. Absolutely love this movie. This is a Australian killer dog film. Basically, it centres around a family who live on a really, really isolated and rural property, and they become the target of a pack of wild dogs. This movie doesn't hold anything back. It is vicious, and the dogs are pretty terrifying, honestly. So yeah, if you haven't seen this one and you're a fan of really, really well done, atmospheric and pretty terrifying killer dog films, this one comes highly recommended. That is The Pack. Coming in at number 4, we have Cruel, and yep, here it is, guys. This is my favourite killer crocodile film. I'm sure most of you have seen this one. It was one of the really popular horror movies from last year, and rightfully so. This movie I thought was so well done on pretty much every level. I love the whole concept of the flooding affecting the homes, affecting this particular group of people, and the crocodiles basically coming into their home with the floodwaters. Absolutely awesome, awesome premise. I loved it. The crocodiles looked absolutely fantastic, probably some of the most realistic and best looking crocs from any killer croc movie that I've ever seen. They were on point. This was pretty terrifying in certain parts. It was pretty vicious. There were some nasty kills there from the crocodiles, but yeah, absolutely love Cruel. I thought it was absolutely phenomenally done. Really, really awesome killer croc movie. Coming in at number 3, we have Slugs, and I've always loved this movie, and I knew even before I came up with this list that this would be somewhere in my top 5. And rightfully so, in my opinion. This is one of my favourite killer insect movies, creature features from the 80s. I absolutely love it. The slugs within this movie look absolutely phenomenal. The effects within this film are some of my all-time favourites when it comes to this particular genre. They look really, really good. They look pretty gruesome and they hold up really, really well. I really like the setting within this movie. I just love everything about this one. It's a absolutely phenomenal killer slug film. So yeah, that is Slugs. Coming in at number 2 we have The Reef, and this is an absolutely fantastically done Australian killer shark movie. Very, very realistic, and this one has absolutely phenomenal tension, great suspense, and very, very atmospheric. It's very simple. It's basically about a group of people who get stranded in the middle of the ocean on the Barrier Reef, and they become the target of a shark. Very, very well done despite its very, very simple premise. But this one just works. As I said, the tension and suspense are second to none. And yeah, this movie is phenomenal. So that is The Reef. There's a quote here on the cover which says the scariest shark thriller since Jaws, and I 100% agree with that statement. That is pretty much exactly what you get with this film. It's, in my opinion, easily the best shark movie since Jaws. And yep, that leads me on to my number 1 pick, Jaws. Probably a pretty obvious and a bit of a generic choice for this list, but guys, it had to be done. To me, this is the granddaddy of killer animal films, and it's an absolute classic. I don't really need to spend too much time talking about it, because I'm sure everyone has seen this movie already. But yeah, I was debating whether I would put this at number 1, but it had to be done. It's an absolute classic, and as I said, it's pretty much the granddaddy, and to me the essential killer animal film, so that is Jaws. Okay, so there you go guys, that is my top 20 killer animal movies. Let me know in the comments section below what you think of my top 20 and what are some of your favourite killer animal movies that made my top 20 list. Let me know. Once again, if you're not already subscribed to Joe and Jason, both of their channel links will be left in the description box below. Until the next top 20 for 2020 list that I compile, I hope you've enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching.